Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 8th edition video with me, Mordian Glory, as your host for today. Now, you may have noticed I didn't say Imperial Guard video. And you may have noticed, guys, that the background artwork is different. That's because, guys, I am considering a new army for 8th edition. This is obviously, don't worry guys, for those of you crying out going, no, I won't be able to come here for amazing guard advice that has helped me win game after game. Sorry, I know, I'm blowing my own trumpet. Some of you may be thinking, I won't be able to come here for the great guard advice. That's not true at all. This is still going to be guard focus. This is just a little extra video I thought I'd do to, round off the week. Which is, I'm considering starting a new army. For a number of reasons. So the first reason, well, I should say, what is the army I'm considering collecting? Well, by the artwork that you can see, I am considering starting a Black Templar army. And the one that I'm sort of imagining in my head is the good old classic Black Tide list. Now, for those of you that don't know, when sort of when Black Templars first came out and when they had their own codex in 4th edition, they were the first kind of space marines that could take big squads of marines. They can take, and they can still do this, they can take crusader squads, which are like a different version of a tactical marine squad. And basically in crusader squads, you can take a mixture of tactical marines, which they call initiates, and scouts, which they call neophytes, because they're in the Black Templar fluff. There are no scouts in their fluff. They don't use scouts. I think they're cowardly and un-space marine-y. And instead, what happens is every new inductee, rather than being given a sniper rifle and told to watch from a distance, is given a bolt pistol and a sword and said, stick close to your initiate who will train you, and he will train you in the heart of battle. And if you survive, then you will be able to come and be a real space marine, a real Templar. So that's kind of cool. The fact that you can take, and back in 4th edition, what you would have is you'd have these big 20-man squads that would be running across the battlefield and chopping you to pieces. Now, Black Templars haven't been able to do that for a while, but there's been a number of changes with 8th edition that are making me think I want to run a Black Tide list. Okay. Number one is I've always wanted to have a Black Tide list. Always. You guys know I love my foot hordes, my foot infantry, and I've always wanted to be able to, run like a power armor foot list. And I've tried doing it in the past with my Chaos, with my Khorne Berserker army, but it never used to work, especially in 6th and 7th edition, when it was all about shooting. And I didn't feel the army. I'm there looking at my Chaos army now, and I've got a lot of it. I've got 40 Berserkers, guys, and 30 Chaos Space Marines. I've got fucking Land Raider, I've got Khan, I've got a couple of Bloodthirst, just old style ones. I've got a Demon Prince, I've got a mixture of obviously, special weapons and melee weapons. I've got a nice army there, and I could run a power armored foot list, but the problem is, I didn't really ever, the way I this is going to be, I know I'm going all over the place here, but it's going to focus in a minute, don't worry. The reason why, because some of you will be saying it's like, well, that's a foot horde list, and that's lots of power armor, that's amazing, and Berserkers are great now. Oh, trust me, I know Berserkers are good, guys. But the problem is I've never really felt it with the Chaos, I kind of wanted, I sort of fell into the army. That's what I should say. So I picked up my first Chaos models. What happened is one of my friend's older brothers was getting out of Warhammer, and he sold me his Chaos army for £20. And in that Chaos army, I got like 30 Chaos Space Marines, and that was it basically. It was a pretty good deal, and there was some other bits and bobs that I got as well. And then over the years, as other Chaos players have basically dropped out of the hobby because Chaos was so bad for such a long time, I've acquired these other bits and bobs for a really decent price. So like I got my 30 Marines for like 20 quid. I got like my 40 Berserkers for like £1 a model. I I got two Bloodthirsters and a Demon Prince for like 25 quid, I think. It's just crazy. I got Khan. One of my friends gave me some. He gave me Khan the Betrayer and 10 Marines and a Predator. I forgot. Yeah, I've got 2 Predators and a Defiler as well, and he just gave me them and was like, "I don't want these anymore. You have them." I think the only model that I bought new in that Chaos Army was a Land Raider for Khan's Pimp Wagon. That's the only model that I really bought new. And kind of as a result of that, the army's a little bit all over the place. And I'm not going to go on about it too much, but like I've got a really eclectic mix of models, and because I didn't build any of the models myself, it never really felt like my army. Like when it came to like the Mordian Iron Guard, I know you don't really build Mordian Iron Guard, but like, you know, I unboxed them, I stuck them in the bases, you know, I still had that feeling. And obviously with all the Cadians that I've got as well, I built pretty much all of those myself. And with Guard, it's a bit different as well because it's the teeming masses. You don't really need that personal feel. Whereas in my Space Marine army, my Chaos Space Marine army, it's all been built by someone else to varying degrees of quality. I never really felt it. Like I said, I just sort of acquired this army by accident. And so I'm thinking of either putting them into storage, possibly just selling them and using that money to fund my next army, which is I want to run this Black Tide army. Now, some of you are going to be there saying to yourselves, no, don't do it. You know, Black Templars, they're not that good. Trust me, I've done the research. I know that in a one-on-one fight, if I want to take a Crusader squad versus a Berserker squad's going to win. I know that. But this sort of leads me on to my next point, which is I want an army that's going to challenge me. I want an army that I have to think and work and scrape and fight tooth and nail to win with. Because unfortunately, guys, Guard isn't that army anymore. There's been a few jokes going around my channel, like with Guard, you know, like, Guard is overpowered now. Mordian Glory has become what he hates. He's become like the Tau. And I joked about it, but then thinking about it, it's actually, you know, it's not completely wrong. You know, one of the things that always drew me for the Imperial Guard was that for the longest time, they were the underdog army. We had a brief moment in 5th edition when, you know, like Leaf Blow was amazing, but I never used Leaf Blow. I always used my foot lists. You know, I'm a foot commander through and through. You know, I'm not a tank commander. I've had brief love affairs with using tank armies, but that's not me. I'm a foot army through and through. But the problem is that Guard are now really powerful. I have lost one game of 8th edition, which is in that tournament, and it was barely a loss. You know, the guy had 1 knight left with like 6 wounds, and I could have tabled him, and it was a bit like, bleh. You know, the TO was like, oh, you've only got 5 minutes left. I was like, well, I can kill him in 5 minutes, but whatever. Anyway, he won that game, and I should never take that away from him. He won that game, and he was clever about it. So props to my opponent there. My point is that in my other like 20 games that I've played, it's not even been hard. Because I've got this huge like model collection to draw upon. Whenever like the meta shifts slightly left or right, it doesn't matter. I've got the collection. I'm just overpowered as fuck. I know some people, you know, I did a video earlier saying, well, you're saying about Guard aren't overpowered. And Guard are not overpowered, but they are very, very powerful. They're much more powerful, at the very least, guys. They are much more powerful than they used to be. And that has kind of meant that I need, as much as I love my Imperial Guard, one of the reasons I used to love them so much is that they challenged me. And that people, you would turn up to a tournament with Imperial Guard and people would be like, fuck, this guy's either crazy or good. And when they met me, it was like, fuck, this guy is crazy and good. You know, I can't believe, you know, people would look at my army and be like, huh, Imperial Guard, this is an easy one. And then, you know, 2.5 hours later, they'd be there, palms sweaty, feverishly rolling dice, trying to stop another wave of infantry crashing against them. Now, I still do that, but what happens is I just table my opponents in 3 turns. You know, unless and I'm not one of those players that wants to take like a suboptimal list. You know, I'm a foot guard player, so when I turn up with foot guard, I don't want to become a different kind of player. So I know this is a bit, but that's kind of like the number one reason why I'm looking for a change. So first reason is I've always wanted a power armored foot list. Second reason, I've always wanted a black tide list. Third reason, Black Templars are cool as fuck. Fourth reason, I need an army that challenges me. Now, again, I want to reiterate, this channel is a guard channel. It is going to be guard focused. Don't worry about that. Okay? So, it's always going to be guard. It's kind of like with when I started collecting Militarum Tempestus, guys. I did a few videos here and there every so often just to, let people know I was still doing Militarum Tempestus stuff. But in total, I've got 100 guard videos and 10, 15 Scion videos. You can see it's obviously a guard focused channel. The Black Templars, I might just collect them and never even really feature them on the channel, apart from the occasional battle report. That's the only time they're really going to get featured, or maybe the occasional update on how the modelling's going. But it's just I want to get your guys' feel for it. What do you guys think about the Black Templars? Do you think they're cool as fuck? Would you be interested in maybe 1 or 2 videos a month about Black Templars, or are you no, Morning Glory, this is a guard channel, keep it to the guard? In which case, that's fine. I'll go and collect them, and I won't really feature them on the channel all that much. But yeah, that's like a different topic. The list that I have in mind, if I want a really class. Oh, actually, I should have said there's a 5th reason why I think now is the time for me to collect my Black Tide list, and that reason is 8th edition. Let's get some positivity going right now. 8th edition is a fantastic time for infantry lists. People all over the place are saying, those guard are so overpowered. They're taking 100 guys and backing it up with tank. And it's well, hang on. And what they're complaining about is the fact there's so much infantry. And I'm there saying to myself, well, hang on. If this is the age of infantry, then this surely is the time to run a Black Tide list. Surely it's a good time for me to be cracking out 100, 120 fucking Crusaders charging across the battlefield. I'm not, I'm a big believer of collecting a faction, not collecting an army. So I'm not going to collect a specific army and then if the meta shifts, I'm fucked. No, I'm going to collect I want to have 200 Marines in my collection. I'm going to have 100 chainsword and bolt pistol Marines, 50 chainsword and bolt pistol Marines and 50 bolt Marines, and do the same for the neophytes, because that way I can have a mix. So if shooting is more effective, I'll run a Black Tide shooty list. If choppy is more effective, I'll run a Black Tide choppy list. If I need a mix of both, I can have a mixture of both. That's the thing, I'm going all in on this. This isn't just going to be I'll collect a little army and then not do it again. No, if I'm going Black Templar and I'm going Black Tide, I'm going 200 Marines, motherfucker. That's what my army's going to be like. So, that's what I want to say, infantry is powerful, and this is the time. If people are struggling with 100 guardsmen, then surely they're going to struggle with 100 Marines. Surely, or 50 Marines and 50 scouts. Surely they're going to struggle with that. And another reason why I've avoided Black Tide for so long, but always secretly wanted it, is the way that casualties used to be removed. You never used to be able to charge across the battlefield and get into close combat with your opponent, because you had to take casualties from the front. Well, now, guess what? I pick the casualties, which means I'll have all my Marines at the front and my neophytes at the back, and I'll just be taking the neophytes off first, and I'm not losing any ground. So that's really, that's really important as well. So that's number 2 sort of reason for 8th edition. Number 3 reason is armies deploy a lot closer these days. If most no man's land in deployment zones, it's 12 inches. There's a few which are a little bit longer, but most deployment zones are pretty close. And 8th edition is all about the turn 1 charge. The turn 1 charge. I don't know if Black Templars would be able to get a turn 1 charge off, but they sure as fuck should be able to get a turn 2 charge off. And it's a case of, when I think about it, will my opponent be able to stop me from getting 50 Marines into their lines by turn 2? I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's possible at all. So that's my thinking behind it. And morale is kind of a tricky one because obviously I'll be losing extra guys, but if I stick to my Black Tide list as being, rather than like big 20-man Crusader squads, but like multiple 10-man Crusader squads, that's what the list I've got in my head. I should be able to find ways of mitigating morale. And so I know shooting is still really powerful for an 8th edition. That's why I'm thinking of taking a close combat choppy Black Templar list. And I really think that it will give me back that feeling I had with Guard, which is most games I'm going into, I know I'm probably going to lose, but I'm definitely going to give my opponent a bloody nose, and I'm definitely going to make him have some respect for my army. And that's what I really want from the Guard. And that's what, if you go check out all my 7th edition videos, I always said to you guys, I can't guarantee that you'll win, but I can guarantee you'll give your opponent a bloody nose. And that's what always drew me to the Guard, and that's what I want a new army to do. And I want something that I've never seen before. If I'm going to be honest with you, in all the years I've played Warhammer, like 14 years almost now, maybe more. Jeez, I think I've been playing Guard for 13 years alone. So I'm coming up to almost 2 decades of playing Warhammer, which is awesome. In all that time, I've never seen a Black Tide list. Maybe for a good reason. I've always read about them, but I've never seen someone really do a full Black Tide list in real life. I've seen like YouTube reports and everything. I want to be the guy that runs it. And I want to be, I want Land Raider Crusaders. I want Sword Brothers. It's not, like I said, I'm going in full balls to the wall. I'm not just going to collect like a specific army and then the meta shifts and it's fucked. No. I'm going to go all in and collect the full army. And that's the problem that my Chaos has at the moment. It's a very specific army. It's, Marines backing up Bloodthirsters, and when the meta shifts, it always got fucked. Whereas with this, I want to go all in. I want to have a huge Black Templar army. And I think it'll be really fun. But guys, what do you think? Are there any Black Templar players out there? Are there any players that have faced off against Black Templars yet in 8th edition? Are they a force to be respected? Are there some definite standout units? Is it better to go shooty or is it better to go choppy? What weapons have you found effective? These are all things I need you guys to draw upon. Really things that I need to know. And like I said, guys, I really want to reiterate this again. This isn't going to become a Black Templar channel. This is going to always be a Guard channel. It's always going to be 90% Guard. This is just something a bit different. Just to chat about. This is just, stream of consciousness. Just a nice relaxing video to finish off at the end. So, the last thing I want to, at the end of the week, the last thing I want to say is, these are the ideas that are floating through my head for like my Black Tide list. And if anyone's got any feedback on this, whether you think it would be effective or whether you think it would be a bit shit, let me know. I'm thinking I need 100 guys. Straight up 100 guys. And I'm thinking that it's best, because of the way morale works at the moment, it's best to take multiple 10-man squads. Now, I have 2 versions I want to run of this 100-man list. One is my shooty version, one is my choppy version. My choppy version is very simple. I take 10-man squads, 5 neophytes, 5 initiates. I give all 5 neophytes bolt pistol and chainsword, or bolt pistol and knife. They get 2 attacks anyway. And then I want to give my initiates, I want to have one as a sword brother. Now, if he's a sword brother, he's rocking a fucking power sword. He's got to rock the power sword. And he's also going to have a combi bolter. And I'm thinking combi plasma, because plasma's really powerful at the moment. So I'm thinking combi plasma, maybe combi melter. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it rolls. I'm going to have another initiate who's going to have a melt gun and a plasma gun. Got to have that, I love my plasma. So, that's what he's going to have, melt gun and plasma gun. And then I'm going to have another initiate and I'm going to give him a power weapon, because you can do that. You can have a power, and I'm thinking maybe a power sword. Have 2 power swords. Basically, each squad's going to have 2 power swords 2 plasma guns or melter guns, and the rest is bolt pistol and chainsword. And they're just going to run across the field and just get to grips with you and just chop the shit out of people. That's what I want to do. And the reason why I think that would be quite effective is because the combi, let's say you've got 2 combi plasma in a squad. That means each squad has got 2 plasma guns. And if I've got 10 squads, that means I'm rocking essentially 20 plasma guns. That's actually nothing to sniff at. And, if I mix it up with a mixture of, plasma and melter, let's say it's half and half, that's still 10 plasma guns, 10 melter guns. That's a decent level of firepower to support my tide of guys running forward. Now, I feel like this is definitely the fluffier option. It definitely encompasses that feeling of not berserker, but zealous charge across the battlefield, bringing the enemy down with bolt pistol and blade. Definitely that grabs that feeling. My second version, which I think is possibly going to be more I should say both lists have got Grimdalus, Chaplain Grimdalus in there, so that he's giving everyone leadership 9 around him. And then I'm also going to have High Marshal, I don't know how you say it, like Hellbracht, I think it is. He's going to be there because he gives everyone rerolls to hit, both shooting and close combat. And he also makes everyone strength 5. And I was thinking maybe of making him like the Warlord, so he gives everyone around him leadership 9 again, because I'll choose that as the Warlord trait, leadership 9, the +1 leadership. And then maybe the Emperor's Champion, because you've got to have the Emperor's Champion. He's just going to be there for fluff reasons. He's going to chop people up. And then the fourth character I want is I think I'm going to go for like a chapter, a company or a chapter ancient to give everyone else leadership 9 around them. And that way I'm mitigating a lot of the leadership problems. So that's for both armies, I want to say. So both armies are going to have like 100 guys. First lot is like choppy, combi melters and stuff like that. Combi plasma, combi melter. Second army is very similar, except for I'm going to take 5 initiates with bolt guns, and then my sword brother's going to have, combi plasma and bolt and power sword. Still going to rock that power sword. He's a sword brother. And then one initiate's going to have like a plasma gun as well. But then instead of having another initiate with a power sword, I'm going to have him with a heavy bolter. And the remaining 2 initiates of that are going to have bolt guns. Because what that means, it means I've got 7 bolt guns each per squad, and I've got 2 plasma guns per squad, and I've got a heavy bolter. Now, what have I told you guys about my Imperial Guard infantry squads? I've said Imperial Guard infantry squads work really well with plasma pistol, plasma gun, heavy bolter. That's my favourite loadout. Well, guess what? I can emulate that exact same thing, but with Black Templars. But my squad's so much more durable, and if it gets charged, I've still got the power sword in there. Now, how both armies would function pretty similarly, except for there'd be a key difference. One, the choppy version would go screaming across the battlefield, charging away, and I want to bring people down with bolt pistol and blade. That's all I want to do. I want to bring them to the black sword. I want to put them to the black sword. My other army, my shooting army, would play a little bit differently. Essentially, I would advance forward, firing as I go, and then once I get to sort of the middle of the board, get that sweet 12-inch rapid fire range, I want to set up the black line. And basically, it's going to be a case of I'm just going to set up this fucking firing line, and I'm going to just shoot the shit out of people. And that seems more tactical, because when you're in 8th edition, shooting is king, and it means my opponent, basically, if he wants to win, it seems better because obviously shooting's better. It seems like it can take on more threats with the plasma guns and heavy bolters. It also seems like it's more tactical for objectives, because it means I can basically be like, okay, there's 3 objectives I want to take on this board. I'm going to shove 30 to 40 Marines on each one. And my opponents have got to try and blast off 30 to 40 Marines from every objective. That can be quite hard. That can be quite hard. Now, last thing I want to say is the reason why I think this list would be effective. And please give comments. I know this is a long video, but like I say, it's just a nice, long, relaxing video for the end of the week. The reason why I think this list would be effective is the way armor saves work these days. Now, obviously, the people are going to raise an eyebrow at this because they're going to be like, well, you're going to be having worse armor saves. It's like, yeah, that's true. But thanks to the way, I think it kind of works in the favour of Black Templars, and maybe this is, you know, false logic, but if I get hit by, let's say I get hit by some small arms, let's say, you know, some las guns, I'm just as durable to that as I've always been. And I can tank those wounds on maybe my 3+ save guys. That's no problem. If I start getting hit by things that are like AP -1, AP -2, I start flipping wounds onto the neophytes. Because they, you know, AP, if they're going to be taking a 5+ armor save, I might as well take that on a fucking neophyte and not give a shit. You know? So that's the reason why I think the armor save thing kind of works in its favour. But guys, tell me what you think. Would you be interested? I've got an idea for a narrative campaign. And this is where I'd put like 1 video up a month. Maybe 2 videos up a month of Black Templars. And it'd just be this narrative campaign. And I'm thinking Black Templars crusading against Tau guys. My brother's got a Tau army. And the way, now, you know, back in 7th edition, this would have been a suicide mission. But now Tau have been brought down to quite a more balanced position. It feels like a Black Templar, Black Tide crusade, maybe bring some Land Raider Crusaders out later on in the campaign, would be a really interesting versus a Tau matchup, because Tau aren't OP and bullshit anymore. They're actually really balanced. So I think that would actually be really interesting. So guys, I'm going to maybe flesh this out in more detail. I'll obviously do some like Black Templar lists and ideas, stuff like that. But, you know, just want to say guys, what are your thoughts? What are your reactions? Please be honest with me. If you guys are there thinking, fuck this, I don't want Black Templar shit in this channel, let me know. Of course, let me know. If most of you are like, hey, it's a kind of cool idea, I don't mind seeing 1 video a month with some Black Templars in it, that's fine. Let me know. You know, and then I will temper it accordingly. If I get an overwhelmingly negative response, then guys, don't worry, no Black Templar shit's going to turn up. If I get a pretty mixed response, then I'll put up maybe 1 video a month. And if I get an overwhelmingly positive response, then I'll probably do the narrative campaign. And you guys can have like, it'll be same as Blood and Shadows, 6 battle reports, Tau and Black Templars duking it out. But that's going to be way off in the future. I haven't even got a single Black Templar model yet, guys. But please, let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, comment, and I will see you guys next week.